Imagine there's a single word, a potent spiritual law, that determines whether you live in constant lack or overflowing, effortless abundance. It is the master key to everything you desire. I discovered something that changed everything, and it rests on the absolute power of one Bible verse, a verse so simple, yet so profound, that when applied correctly, it has the power to manifest blessings far beyond $77 million. When I began studying the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, I was searching for the how. How does the spiritual blueprint turn into physical, tangible results? How does a single prayer move the mountains of debt and lack? How do we access the unlimited treasury that the divine source promises? Shinn taught me that the manifestation of abundance is not a struggle. It is a demonstration of divine law, an exact science that responds only to the quality of our faith and the clarity of our word. The secret is not effort. The secret is alignment. The divine source is constantly willing to give. The delay is never on the side of heaven. The resistance comes from the human being, from the consciousness that doubts the absolute truth of prosperity. We are not praying for something that is scarce. We are claiming what has already been prepared for us from the foundation of the world. This is the great spiritual switch, moving from asking if to declaring it is done. And today, here on Divine Soul, I want to show you exactly how this spiritual truth, anchored in the power of a single scriptural declaration, can transform your reality. This isn't about chasing money or forcing events. It is about awakening the faith vibration that attracts all good things, effortlessly drawing the perfect supply to meet every demand of your life. This vibration is activated through the words spoken in perfect trust. If this idea resonates deep within your soul, if you feel that stirring of possibility that recognizes a higher truth, please take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to Divine Soul. Your engagement helps spread this crucial message of spiritual freedom and prosperity to others who are also seeking to align with their highest good. We are building a community of conscious manifestors who dare to declare their divine inheritance. The teachings of Shinn show us that the kingdom of heaven is not a distant reward. It is a present state of consciousness. Prosperity is not an accident. It is a result of spiritual readiness. This readiness is expressed when we stop fighting the circumstances of the outer world and instead begin planting the seeds of perfect supply in the rich soil of our mind, backed by unwavering trust in the invisible power. The moment you declare, heaven listens. The moment you trust, heaven responds. The manifestation of 77 million, or any desired blessing, is simply a perfect demonstration of the law of supply and demand, working through your word. The demand is your spoken faith. The supply is the limitless potential of the divine mind. There can be no failure, only a delay, caused by human doubt. Stay with me until the end, because the declaration I will share with you, derived from Shinn's interpretation of this ancient verse, may be the single, most potent spiritual tool you need. It is the key to rooting out the weeds of lack and allowing your abundance to bloom. I want to know, what is the one major life transformation you are ready to claim right now? Hold that thought, because we are about to make it real. The central concept from Florence Scovel Shinn is breathtakingly simple, yet it holds the entire architecture of manifestation. Life is a game of giving and receiving, but before you can receive, you must first be spiritually ready to declare and accept. She taught that our word, spoken with faith, is not merely a request. It is the absolute completion of the circuit that connects the invisible supply to the visible manifestation. Without the word of faith, the current remains dormant. The cornerstone of this teaching, the verse that unlocks the secret to rooting out lack, is found in Matthew 15:13. Every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. This verse is a spiritual guillotine. It means that any thought, any circumstance, any fear, any debt, or any financial limitation that is not part of God's perfect, abundant plan for your life has no divine root. It is merely a weed in the garden of your consciousness, and its removal is absolutely guaranteed by divine law. When I truly understood this, I realized that my personal struggles, the chronic fear, the worry about bills, the perpetual sense of not enough, were simply these weeds I had been unknowingly nurturing. They were false concepts I had mistakenly planted in the fertile ground of my mind. My struggles were not permanent realities. They were simply unauthorized growths that held no true power over my destiny. The profound peace that comes from this understanding is the true wealth. Shinn's teaching pivots on the recognition that the supply of the Lord is endless. There is no lack in the divine mind. Therefore, the moment you declare a belief in lack, you are planting a weed that contracts your experience. Your job is not to fight the visible poverty or the visible debt. Your job is to plant the unshakable truth of divine abundance in its place. The divine source does not argue with your word. It simply executes it. The word of God, or the affirmation of truth, is a perfect, potent seed. Your faith is the rich, dark soil into which that seed must be dropped. When you plant the right seed, backed by the certainty of faith, the blessing must, by spiritual law, bloom. The harvest is guaranteed, because the law of cause and effect is infallible in the spiritual realm. The seed cannot return to you void. It must bring forth its kind. The immediate personal reflection that followed this realization was transformative. I started to ask myself, when I look at my reality, what false beliefs am I still entertaining that heaven never intended for me? I began to see that my resistance to receiving great wealth was the biggest weed of all. It was the belief that $77 million was too much for me, too complicated, or too improbable. This limited thinking, I discovered, was the only thing standing between the divine plan and its perfect manifestation. The great metaphor Shinn uses is that of the picture maker. We are constantly making pictures with our thoughts and words. If you consistently picture lack, you are drawing a picture of lack onto the screen of your life. But when you use the sacred verse to declare, "This lack is not planted by my Father and is therefore rooted up," you immediately tear up the old picture and begin drawing the new one, the picture of overflowing, effortless supply. This is the activation of the creative power. The final element of this foundation is the realization that this spiritual law provides instantaneous remedy. You do not have to wait for your environment to change to start declaring the truth. You declare the truth, so the environment must change. The power to root out the false and plant the true resides in your consciousness right now. It is accessible through the clear, simple, bold recognition that your prosperity is not earned. It is claimed as your divine inheritance. The crucial step after understanding the spiritual foundation is mastering the applied principle. How the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn translate the idea of prosperity into the tangible reality of millions. It is the practical instruction for moving from the unseen idea of perfect supply to the seen manifestation of that supply. This is where the spiritual aspirant becomes the conscious manifester, directing the infinite flow of wealth. The teaching operates on the principle that God has already perfected the ideal for your life, which includes your complete financial freedom. The blessing is not something you have to create. It already exists in the realm of divine ideas as the perfect plan. The delay is not in the delivery system of the source, but in the reception system of the human being. Your application of the principle, therefore, centers on becoming a perfect receiver for this pre-existing good. This reception is achieved through the power of the spoken word aligned with God's perfect will. Shinn emphasizes that the word must be spoken with the absolute conviction that the spoken thought is already fact. When you declare, "I receive $77 million now," you are not pleading for a future event. You are acknowledging a present spiritual reality. You are affirming the truth that the source has already prepared the path for that amount to reach you. This requires spiritual readiness, which is the readiness to act and think as if the full blessing is already in your divine possession. Readiness means clearing the fear and doubt that clog the channel. The consciousness of lack is the only thing that jams the divine circuit. The applied principle is the simple, bold replacement of every anxious thought with a declaration of perfect trust and accomplished desire. Faith is not just believing in silence. Faith is declaring boldly. This is a mandatory component of the application. The silence of the heart is important for hearing the inner guidance, but the spoken word is necessary to set the vibration into motion in the outer world. The vibration of a bold declaration cuts through the fog of doubt and focuses the entire energy of the human being onto the desired result. The universe, being perfectly responsive, must then comply. You cannot vibrate a frequency of lack while attempting to declare abundance. The true application of the principle requires vibrational integrity. Every word, every thought, every feeling must be a perfect match for the reality you are claiming. If you declare wealth but worry about your next payment, the spiritual law receives a confused signal. The applied principle demands full, undivided allegiance to the declaration of abundance. The source responds instantly to the spiritual fact established by your word, but the manifestation is timed by your perfect, unwavering declaration. The moment the human consciousness releases all resistance and absolutely trusts the perfect execution of the divine law, the physical manifestation must appear. The 77 million arrives when the human being has prepared the mental space for it, seeing the amount as a natural, expected event. Therefore, the practice is simple. Speak with absolute authority, knowing that the Lord is merely waiting for the clarity of your faith. The spoken word is the active agent that turns potential energy into kinetic reality. The applied principle is the commitment to live, breathe, and act from the consciousness that the blessing is already released, seeing the financial world not as a challenge, but as an endless field of guaranteed supply. The power of the applied principle is best illuminated through a true testimonial, demonstrating the immediate and perfect responsiveness of divine law. Let me share the story of Chris, a human being who faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge until the moment the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn awakened a dormant faith. Chris was a brilliant entrepreneur whose project had stalled, not due to lack of talent, but due to a complete financial blockage. The struggle was palpable, with debt mounting and every avenue of conventional funding sealed shut. Chris's struggle was the common human dilemma, believing in the divine power in general, but failing to apply that specific power to the immediate crushing need. The spiritual gap was a lack of conviction that God's law of abundance operated through the mundane financial world. Chris was praying from a consciousness of poverty, which is the worst possible starting point, since the word spoken in fear attracts more of what is feared. The creative power of the word was being used against the self. The spiritual discovery came during a moment of deep despair, when Chris read Shinn's simple, powerful mandate. The supply is inexhaustible and is at hand. Never appeal to a person, appeal to the law. This instruction was a revelation. It reframed the entire problem. The challenge was not convincing a bank or an investor. The challenge was convincing the self of the unlimited nature of the source. It was a shift from looking to the human channel to looking solely to the divine treasury. The turning point through faith was a radical internal shift. Chris stopped begging the source for help and instead began thanking the source for the perfect supply already released. Chris would look at the mounting invoices and instead of feeling panic, would close the eyes and boldly declare, "Thank you, Father, that my perfect financial supply, the $77 million needed for my perfect venture, is already released to me. I receive it now under grace in a perfect way." The consciousness of the human being changed from lack to absolute certainty. This was the moment of spiritual readiness. Chris changed focus entirely, from the paralyzing reality of the problem, debt, to the vibrant, assured reality of the blessing, completed supply. This affirmation of gratitude for the yet unseen good is the highest form of faith, as it acknowledges the reality of the invisible. The result was concrete and swift, illustrating the perfect timing of the Lord when the human being removes resistance. A contact who had previously declined the venture suddenly felt compelled to revisit the proposal. Not only did this entity provide the required capital, but the figure provided, through unforeseen mergers and partnerships, quickly reached and surpassed the desired $77 million mark. It arrived effortlessly, exactly as declared, under grace in a perfect way. This was a profound lesson in the workings of the divine law. It wasn't random good fortune. It was the absolute, inevitable effect of a focused spiritual cause. The struggle was neutralized the moment the faith was activated. The supply materialized when the human consciousness stopped doubting and started giving thanks for the completed manifestation. It wasn't magic. It was faith, the declaration of thanks, aligned with the applied principle of recognizing the ever-present, already released supply. This testimonial proves that the only limit to the manifestation of 77 million is the limit we place on the willingness of the divine source to deliver. The law works perfectly for anyone who meets its demand for unwavering conviction. Now, let's move into the active phase of this spiritual work, the activation of your word through potent faith declarations. This is the essential practice that turns the passive understanding of the law into the active experience of manifestation. The declaration is the bridge from the potential blessing to the physical reality. It is where you move from theory to demonstration. The structure of these declarations is vital. Always use the formula, I plus present tense plus divine blessing. This structure bypasses the subconscious mind's tendency toward doubt and scarcity, firmly establishing the desired reality as an immediate fact in your consciousness. When you declare, "I am a child of divine abundance," you are not hoping to be. You are stating a fundamental, unchangeable truth about your spiritual identity. The crucial element that separates a simple wish from a true faith declaration is emotional guidance. I don't just say it, I feel it. The words must be infused with the vibration of certainty, gratitude, and joy. You must feel the profound relief and security of having already received the $77 million. The feeling is the spiritual fuel that propels the word into manifestation. It is the signature of your conviction that the law is already at work. Here are the declarations that awaken your creative power and bring you into divine alignment. Declarations that must be spoken with conviction, clarity, and deep gratitude. I am a child of divine abundance, and all channels of unlimited wealth and perfect supply are now open to me. I now receive everything God has already prepared for me, easily, under grace, and in a perfect, harmonious way. I am the living magnet for my highest good, and the designated $77 million or more is manifesting in my experience now, in perfect order. I trust in the perfect timing and mechanism of the Lord, and my great joyous opportunity appears before me today. I declare my life as a masterpiece of effortless prosperity, vibrant health, and profound happiness, fully sponsored by the divine source. The repeated, feeling-infused declaration serves to impress the perfect idea upon the universal mind. Every time you repeat the declaration, you are watering the seed of truth and rooting out any residual doubt. The word is an eraser, constantly wiping away the picture of lack and replacing it with the luminous image of abundance. This is how you change your spiritual blueprint from one of limitation to one of infinite possibility. The goal is to reach a state of knowing, a complete, relaxed certainty. You should declare these words not as a person striving for a difficult outcome, but as a person confidently claiming a shipment that has already been dispatched. This relaxed faith, this absolute belief in the reliability of the source, is what Florence Scovel Shinn calls the highest degree of spiritual readiness. You are simply stating a fact of the spiritual universe. Speak these with utter conviction. Feel the blessing enter your soul before it enters your hands. This is the difference between prayer and affirmation. Affirmation asserts a truth, while prayer can sometimes imply a doubt. Declare with the absolute certainty that your word is the law, and that every promise of the Lord is being fulfilled perfectly in your experience right now. Now, as we prepare to synthesize these points, I want to create a powerful commitment in the comments. I invite you to declare your readiness to receive. In the comments, affirm the one thing you know you are finally ready to receive from the source. Write, "I am ready to receive." We arrive now at the culmination of the spiritual teaching, the powerful synthesis that unifies all the principles we have discussed into the practical mechanism of manifestation. This is the understanding of the divine triad, the three non-negotiable components necessary to bring the vast, unseen wealth of the universe into the human being's tangible experience. It is the perfect, unbreakable formula for claiming your $77 million. The first and most fundamental element is the connection with God as the source. God is not simply the provider. God is the infinite, inexhaustible reservoir of all supply, all wisdom, and all creative power. This source knows no depletion, no lack, and no limitation. You cannot, through your wildest desires, out-ask this source. The key is recognizing that all things, all financial assets, and all opportunities flow from this single infinite point. Think of it like a mighty river that spans the entire continent, never running dry. The water, the supply, is always there, always moving, always seeking an outlet. The human being's mistake is often standing by the river and asking if it has water. We must stop petitioning the source for its existence and start demanding its flow into our lives, based on the absolute certainty of its presence. The second element is the word as the channel. If God is the mighty river, the word you speak with conviction is the perfectly constructed channel, the pipe, or the irrigation system you lay down. When you speak your declaration, "I now receive 77 million," you are not asking the river to flow. You are actively directing the flow to your specific garden. The word determines the form and volume of the blessing. This is the potent, memorable metaphor. God is the source. The word is the channel. Faith is the bridge. The channel, your declaration, must be clear and unobstructed. Any words spoken in fear, doubt, or worry act as debris, clogging the channel and slowing the flow. Therefore, the consistent, bold declaration of your good is the continuous act of clearing and widening the pathway for divine supply. The final and most crucial element is faith as the bridge. Faith is the conscious, confident, relaxed expectation that allows you to walk from your current reality of limitation to the waiting reality of the perfect blessing. It is the spiritual readiness, the state of consciousness, where the physical result is already taken for granted. Without this bridge of conviction, the supply, source, and the demand, word, remain disconnected. This leads to the mandatory phrase of absolute surrender and acceptance. Lord, I trust. I am ready. This is the ultimate spiritual signal. When you declare readiness, you are signaling to the universe that all internal resistance has collapsed. You are aligning your personal will entirely with the divine will for your prosperity, opening the path for the immediate and perfect manifestation. The source requires only this perfect trust to release the totality of the blessing. Therefore, the complete formula for the conscious manifester, derived from the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn, is this. The word is declaration. You use the spoken word to assert the perfect reality. Faith is expectation. You maintain the relaxed, unwavering certainty that the assertion is already a fact, and God is supply. You rest in the knowledge that the source is infinite and constantly responsive. This triad creates the perfect flow of divine abundance. Today, I invite every human being watching to make a profound spiritual choice. This choice is simple, yet it holds the key to releasing all the accumulated good that heaven has stored for you. The choice is to stop operating from the consciousness of limitation, the false belief that you must struggle, compete, or suffer to receive your divine inheritance. Stop believing that the perfect supply, whether it is $77 million perfect health or harmonious relationships, is scarce or difficult to obtain. That mindset is the weed that needs to be rooted out. As the teachings of Florence Scovel Shinn so clearly show us, that scarcity thought is not planted by the divine source, and therefore, it must be removed. Start declaring the release of your perfect blessing into your hands now. Start living from the consciousness of complete sufficiency, knowing that the source is infinite and your word is the channel. This immediate internal shift, this bold act of faith, is the only thing the universe requires for the full manifestation of your good. This is spiritual readiness in action. You have the power within you right now to awaken your faith. You have the absolute creative power to manifest through the simple mechanism of the divine triad: God as source, the word as channel, and faith as the bridge. Do not delay your good another day by allowing doubt to cloud your vision or weaken your declaration. The $77 million is not a figure to chase. It is the perfect representation of the complete financial freedom that is your birthright. It is the symbol of a life lived without financial stress, enabling you to fulfill your highest purpose and serve the world with your unique gifts. Claim the idea, and the form must follow. Therefore, let us make a final, powerful declaration, a spiritual pact that seals the understanding we have awakened today. Write this in the comments below, making it an undeniable truth in your experience. I receive my perfect supply now, under grace, and in a perfect way. This phrase isn't just a comment. It's a signature on the contract of your prosperity. It is your official, public, and absolute declaration to the universe that the channel is clear, the bridge is built, and you are ready for the flow of the infinite. Claim your blessing boldly. If this message touched your heart, if it awakened that deep, resonant truth within your soul, please like this video, share it with one person who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Divine Soul to join our community of conscious manifestors. Let the world know the power of the word, because when you speak with faith, with perfect trust in the source, heaven listens.